On this episode of Addiction Talk, my recovery story, we talk to Monte Twilley, a motivational speaker, veteran in recovery, and alumni of our Texas facility, Greenhouse Treatment Center. During his military service, Monte drank and experienced some blackouts, but it was after his service when he experimented with freebasing cocaine that his life began to spiral out of control. Here's his story.
We are joined by Monte here to share his story. Thank you so much for being willing to share your story, because I know so many people will be able to relate to what you've gone through as a veteran and just as someone who has struggled with addiction.
Joy, thank you so much for this opportunity. I am so excited about it. I know we have chatted or via email, et cetera, over the past year or so. So it's a real pleasure to have the opportunity. I don't take it lightly at all. I'm excited.
Well, as we think about your journey and how you got to where you are today, first give me a little bit of your background. We understand you're an Army veteran, but what do you think initially led to your addiction?
Yeah, it's real easy. Being a military veteran, I'm aged. I'm 70, pushing 71, so I've been around for a while. So I went in the military, went to college for a while, and then went in the military. I think around about 77. Back then in the military, it was very common, Joy, for veterans, or shall I say, Army and other military people to drink, with the NCO or officers, et cetera. And so there was absolutely a lot of drinking. I've had some blackouts at that time. However, when I got out of the military, I've been in a couple of times, but when I got out the last time in '86, I was introduced to freebasing cocaine, and I knew that I was in trouble. So I was a fantastic soldier. I was in the Presidential Honor Guard for 2.5, 3 years. Everything was actually excellent, even though that there was drinking and some pot smoking, because they didn't have UAs really back then. And so you could really get away with a lot. The officers or whomever would sort of turn their back or whatever, as long as you showed up on time and did your job. But it was in '86, about 2 months after I got out, is that I started to have some false starts in my life.
Mhm. How quickly did it spiral out of control? I know you said you went to a point where you're in the military, drinking was common during that time.
Mhm,
You said you experienced some
mhm.
blackouts. So you probably thought, oh, no big deal. Everybody's drinking. But then you get out and you get into this experimental phase in your life where you're trying cocaine and different things like that. How did it spiral? And when did you realize something, I'm out of control at this point?
Oh, it was it was quite I had just really kind of was in the process of getting married with the first wife, and I got introduced to it. It was, Nancy Reagan time, just say no. There was a lot going on back then. Len Bias, I know if anybody recalls, that was with the University of Maryland, and that was a high profile. He was to get a job playing basketball with the Boston Celtics, and unfortunately he passed, and just a number of things. Richard Pryor got burned up around that time in '86, if you know the videos. So it was quite common historically. We look at it. Supposedly, the CIA was involved in it to fund the Iran-Contra war. So anyway, got out of the military in Denver, got exposed, and then went to California and got even more exposed. That's where supposedly the Crips had started to crack cocaine, if you will, back then around the '80s. And see, everybody has something that I feel that they struggle with. Actually, I don't really enticed by alcohol anymore. I'm not a gambler per se. There's a lot of things that I definitely don't like to people who steal from each other and the sort. But I learned that it's my kryptonite. Everybody has, I believe, some type of kryptonite. We know the Superman. could save Lois Lane. He had Olsen squared away, but he could not deal with kryptonite from the fictitious uh, planet of Krypton. And so, no doubt about it, I've been in and out of uh, the addiction of cocaine for about 37, 38 years. I've had as much as 17 years straight, not even a cigarette. But I did relapse in 2014, the end of 2014, and that was real tough. I've been through a lot. I've been homeless. I've been up and down. I'm a PR guy, a former journalist, newspaper reporter. I've done pretty well in terms of career wise. However, it's really tough in starting over. And so I share more. I'll let you jump in there. But my mindset is different now. It's not about trying to stay clean. I do have 19 months now. My goal now, Joey, is to live a fulfilled life holistically, relationship wise, in every area of my life. I want freedom financially. And so I've come to the realization, and we'll talk about my experiences at Greenhouse through American Addiction Center, but it was a young lady who basically had shared with me. She said, Monty, she said, I know that you've done this, you've done that, and you want to speak, you want to get the tour going with the women again and men. She said, but I suggest to you that perhaps maybe your ultimate goal ought to be living a fulfilled life. And so, with that, that is essentially my mantra as it relates to going forward. I've got a lot of peace with it because I realize what my assignment in life is, and that is essentially to live a fulfilled life and allow for me to be able to add some value to the greater community.
You know what I think is really interesting about that mindset? That the mindset
Mhm.
of just staying sober was more difficult versus
Mm.
having a mindset that I want to live a fulfilled life. Like the difference in the mindset you said was instrumental for you. Why do you think just trying to stay sober versus the
Mhm.
mindset of I just want to live a full life? Did it give you a freedom when you changed that
It,
mindset
it
thinking?
did. It did. It did because you asked me, Preston. Well, why did he relapse after 17 years? You know why? I chose to. I
Mm.
chose to pick up, and I cannot handle that particular drug. I mean, it's a people do all types of things, and they lose things and all. So I believe that we're all searching for peace, whether we believe in a higher power or not, as it suggests in the 12-step process. And that's something that I never did. I had gone to NA meetings and recovery, this and that, but I had never really embraced the 12-step process. And so I do, if you will, Joy, I believe that it's a full cleansing. I believe that if someone is spiritual or religious, that the 12-step process can augment because who doesn't want freedom from any type of addiction, whether it's gambling, sex, whatever it is that I realize, and I say this very humbly, even at 70 years old, I believe that I'm about to experience the best years of my life. And that is because, as Oprah Winfrey said, I'll never forget that show. I think it was 2004 or whatever it was, and she had the last show. She had on a peach dress. She had a little sash on the side, and she was the only person on the stage. And I'll never forget. And she said, it doesn't matter whether or you don't have to have a high-flute job like her with millions of people watching you. You can be a school teacher, a bus driver, whatever that is that you feel that you can do, quite frankly, without getting paid. And so I'm clear as to what the assignment is, and that is, I've done motivational speaking, et cetera. And essentially, one of my mantras is that it's about time for us to follow our dreams, et cetera. But Monty needed to be able to set an example of being consistent, and the only way that I felt that I could do that is to surrender. That's, I think, is essentially the thing that I've learned. And they say it in the rooms. You got to be able to surrender because I do not have any power over my DLC. That's a word that I learned coming here in Dallas, Texas, through Greenhouse Treatment Center. I do realize that I can't handle it. And so sometimes, yes, I think about, lying in my bed or whatever, and this and that. And it's like, oh no, not because I don't want to lose a car again, not because I don't want to lose a house again, not because I don't want to lose a job. The reason why that I do not want to use anymore is because it does not add any value to my life. That's the bottom line. It doesn't add any value. And see, you add value to my life. I've watched you closely in terms of what you're doing for the company, et cetera. And so, why should I be on this show, or why should we not, collaborate if I'm not adding value to your life and the other, and to the listeners and to the viewers? And so, anybody in my circle, they've got to be adding some value, but I need to ensure that Monty is being consistent. And the way for him to be able to do that and leave some type of legacy for the next generation to build upon is to simply devalue, if you will, those things in my life that
Mhm.
absolutely add value.
Mhm.
That's where my mindset is today.
And I can see how that is a different mindset and how that fuels you forward because it's like a
Yes.
positive mindset versus don't do this. It's like, don't do it. Try to stay sober. That feels very restrictive, I
Right.
think it can be. But there's a freedom in saying, I get to choose to live a fulfilling life. I get to choose
Wow.
today and walk in my purpose. I'm choosing this now. And so I think, just hearing you, I think that can be
Mhm.
powerful for a lot of people to realize that it's not like you're giving up something. Even though I know a lot of people when they're amidst of
Yes.
addiction and maybe it's alcohol or whatever, they're like, I have to give this
Mhm.
up. But no, you're getting something back. You're getting a life.
Yes.
So instead of looking at what
Yes.
you're giving up, thinking about what you're getting in exchange. So I think
Mhm.
that is going to be a powerful message for a lot of people. But I want to go back
Well
because
said.
we got
Mhm.
into your story and you talked about
Mhm.
being in the military, but what was your rock bottom moment? The first time I know you've relapsed and we're going to go
Okay.
on that journey, but the
Yeah,
very
yeah.
first
But
time
that's
you
a
said this
yeah,
is
my rock yeah. This last time was probably the rock bottom. And real quickly, what happened is that I was in Maryland, and I had gotten busted. They raided the house, and fortunately, I was able to get off of that charge. I'd never been in trouble before in terms of getting caught with drugs and all. And I was living uh, in someone's garage after the house was disbanded, et cetera. And this guy said, "Man, you got to get out of my garage. You're the landlord, this and that." And so I knew that really I came to Dallas not to necessarily get clean because I haven't had to have a place to stay. Went through again one of those programs where you go into from a mental health standpoint, got stabilized. Thank God for the United States of America. Thank God for the VA. But as it was before, the first time that I went into recovery, I went through the Salvation Army for 2.5 years, and it had nothing to do with really wanting to be clean. It was because I needed to survive, and so that probably was my rock bottom in terms of how I had achieved so many things. Motivational speaker, I produced women events, and all. A lot of people was counting on me, and it seemed that everything was going to be fine. I was going to really realize the full potential, all those things we talked about. But what I've learned, and I'm sure you'll want to talk a little bit more about it, and that is you got to know why you do it.
Mhm.
You got to know why we do it. And one thing that I must do, okay, is because I'm a glass half full guy, is that I try to watch how I reward myself. Those 17 years that I had, I rewarded myself with cheesecake. I was working for banks and other type HR consultancies, et cetera. And so when I would achieve some things for the companies or for myself in sales, I would reward myself. That sugar, that's a mess. Sugar is. And I reward myself with a sweet or something of that nature. But now I'm learning, and quite honestly, the last time that I relapsed was pretty tough. I think in 2022. That was I after I produced the women's event for that particular year, and I sort of literally exhaled and decided to reward myself. So for me, I have
Mm.
to be cognizant in terms of how I reward myself in terms of the endorphin. So yeah, I've been on the street a number of times. I was one of those people, believe it or not, that held a sign up in California. Newspaper reporter living on the street. It's amazing in terms of where I've been, but it humbles me, quite frankly. I'm an old Boy Scout, Cub Scout, mom's apple pie, baseball games the American way. And so I believe in doing the right thing. I say this very humbly. I'm a good guy. I'm one of the good guys, and I never saw myself after being in the President's Honor Guard, all these other things that I've achieved, Victoria Service Medal. I never saw myself picking up a crack pipe for the first time in 1986. So you never know where one's journey is. I used to judge people, quite frankly, Joy.
Mm.
That's a long story, but I've learned that not to judge people because you do not know what your journey will look like and where it would carry you. So it's humbled me to say the least.
No, I can imagine, and I think there's probably a lot of veterans who are gonna hear
Mm,
this and go, "I never thought that would be me." I know now that you
yeah.
advocate for a lot of veterans, who are struggling. Do you hear that a lot where people say, "I never thought that would be me. I never thought this would
Oh,
happen."
absolutely. Absolutely. If I can talk about the best recovery that I've had, not saying it from a commercial or whatever, but you work for American Addiction Center, certainly one of the largest for profit. When I came down here to Dallas area, went through Greenhouse, through community care because I couldn't get back into the VA in Maryland because there was a waiting list for about 10 weeks, and the liaison lady said, "Well, that's not acceptable." And so someone else told me that the VA offered community care. And I said, "Well, what about community?" I'd never been in community care. All mine pretty much had been through VA or what have you. And she said, "Well, do your research." And so, bottom line is, there was someone that was in the program that used to work for American Addiction Center, was one of those business development associates for the Maryland, D.C. area. And someone gave him my name or whatever. I called just my first name, Monte. Oh, wow. I'm going to send you to our best place. The flagship he felt was Greenhouse Treatment Center. And so, did 90 days residential. And then they gave me 6 months as they were doing for other veterans in the outpatient uh, treatment center and with the sober living hotel. And then, quite honestly, they petitioned to get me another 6 months, and I did. I ended up doing pretty much yeah, about a good 15 months or so at Greenhouse and that whole system. And it was the therapists, the counselors, the alumni, I love them to death, Otoro, and it's just so many people that feel Van Gelder, so many people that were embracing me. And so, no doubt about it, going to Greenhouse Treatment Center, that whole process was a life changing. I was destined to go there in order to be able to find myself. And other
Mhm.
veterans, yes, same thing. We've gone through things in war. We've gone through things in terms of military, and there are plenty of people. Lastly, I want to be able to share. I met people who came out of prison at the facility. I met millionaires. Okay, I met CEOs. People had flown in on Lear jets, and the addiction of alcohol is certainly one of the bigger ones that was there. That meth is a big thing now, particularly down here on the south, and then cocaine and the sort, and heroin and all. And I had OD'd before I came down about a couple of months prior. I don't even do heroin, but I again was trying things like everybody else was sniffing, and I thought it was heroin, and it was. They took 2 bottles to get me bring me back. So
So you
yes,
wait
that
a minute,
that
I need to
bottom.
stop you there just to unpack that. So before you came to
Mhm,
Greenhouse, you had
mhm.
overdosed, and you said it took
Yes.
so you had overdosed.
It's
So you
yeah,
had
yeah. What do you call it? The yeah, with the spray.
can
Yeah, about a couple months. Yeah, about a couple months before I came to Greenhouse, somewhere in there, I had OD'd, And actually, I had OD'd years ago from cocaine. Some people think you can't, but you put that stuff in your body, you're not eating properly and all. Yeah. So, what did I do? I got right back at it. That's not even me. So, uh, I think that many people, particularly today, that were raised, by two-parent families or whatever the case may be, or Girl Scout, whatever, the journey of addiction, drinking, for many of them, you never know just how far it's not good at all. It's not good. So yeah, I want to advocate not only for veterans, but whatever time that I have here on earth, Joy, I want to be about the business of not just helping people to realize their full potential, but to live the fulfilled life that we talk. And so, in order to be able to be on the journey of living a fulfilled life, uh, addiction, particularly as it relates to substance use disorder, it cannot be a part. There's no way in the world that I am going to be able to uh, uh, achieve my goals financially and all of that with that in my life. So I have a choice. Is it going to be drugs, or alcohol, or am I going to get about the business of what I believe that my assignment in life is? So devalue. Quite honestly, I said it earlier. The reason why that I relapsed is because it was my girlfriend. It was my chick on the side. I
Hmm.
valued it too much. And so I'm learning in a lot of areas of my life is that I'm learning that I need to devalue it and not place so much emphasis on it. And so that we talked about it earlier, is that the goal being living a fulfilled life financially and all those areas. It's a holistic approach that Monty is taking, and it has given me a lot of freedom because I don't have to worry about, oh gee whiz, this is really nice being on here with Joy. Maybe I go reward myself tonight. No, rest assured, we're not gonna do that. Is because again, uh, I'm at peace. I'm happy,
Hmm.
and one of the things that has really helped me, Joy, is to ensure that I have a work-life balance. I think one of the reasons why that I've had some ups and downs is because people pleasing or whatever on the job or whatever the case may be, or doing something that somebody else wants to do. And so I'm learning that if you do not set boundaries, that was a big one. You know, if you don't set boundaries, people will set them for you.
Hmm. But you said something, Monty. You dropped so many golden
Mhm.
nuggets that I have to go back to. But one of
Yeah,
those
please.
golden nuggets that you said, and I really think it's important to address this, is that you said you found yourself in
Mhm.
treatment. What does
Yes.
that mean to you when you say, I found myself in treatment?
Well, full disclosure, and I'm not trying to sound like other men, but a lot of times we men, when I first heard about therapy. I don't need any therapy. I'm a man. So when my ex-wife, I've been married twice. With my second wife, when I went through what I went through, she said, "You need therapy." She did it for years, and a lot of others do. And so I think that I took therapy. I'm so glad that the VA sent me down here and allowed for me to have 90 days, and veterans were required by uh, American District Center to see the therapist once a week, and then that was the same case when I went over to. So I think it was the therapy, the being able to connect with the therapist and being not afraid to really get to the core, the underlying issues as to why Monty has continued to go on this journey of the addiction. And I think the therapy, and yes, the groups are fine, and I got a lot out of group process, but I was not afraid to be vulnerable, Joey, in terms of where my deficiencies lie. And my story is public. I've been on shows here and there, and all is because I used to be very ashamed of being going from a Boy Scout to a Cub Scout to the Presidential Honor Guard, and then getting out of the military, and I was a crackhead. I was so ashamed, and so when it's a long story, but but when I was judging someone else who was a professional basketball player, one of the first ones to get kicked out of the military. I'm sorry, out of the NBA as a result of drugs. And then here I found myself, 2 years later, going through the very same thing that that person did. So that's what really helped me to really try hard not to judge people.
Mhm. And when you found yourself, Monty, what did you discover about yourself? Was it like an awakening? How would you describe it? And what did you discover about
Yeah, in really finding myself, I had to come to grips with who is Monty and what is Monty's purpose here on Earth. And it's certainly not to be in and out of the treatment. It's certainly not to be, pushing a crack pipe. That that it was certainly I knew that a long time ago. I got involved in Toastmasters back in 1991, and so I realized that I had the oratorial skills and all, but that was a lot of shame too, being motivational speaking. But see, a lot of people, motivation speakers or inspirational speakers, they get their stories out of their false starts. But in realizing through therapy and realizing that I was willing to be vulnerable and take the mask off, I never forget my last day at Greenhouse Treatment Center, the inpatient. Wonderful. It was October 31st, Halloween, and the therapist that was my she wasn't my therapist, but she was in charge of the veteran program and first responders, and she had an amazing program that they all did that last day, and I think that was a rude awakening. It was a breakthrough for me. I I,
it?
I never will be the same as a result of leaving some junk on the table through that process. So it was an amazing process that I went through at Greenhouse. So I'm in. Okay, I'm in. Whatever Greenhouse or American District Center needs me to do, you can count on me because it absolutely was a life changing experience for me.
Mhm. So now I find, Monty, you're on this place of
Mhm.
helping other veterans. Like you found this
Yes.
purpose. When did you know that you had to go back and help others find what you found, other veterans?
Good question. Because years ago I used to travel, through Salvation Army and others, Monty the Motivator is the way I branded myself, and I spoke about recovery a lot. However, yes, it's more centered now towards helping veterans, is because I was in the military and got out and got into the cocaine. I think largely is because I had difficulty in adjusting to civilian life. I'm a disabled veteran. The VA just awarded me, if you will, a compensation in terms of what I call um, readjustment disorder. So a lot of those false starts that we talked about throughout my life since I got out in '86, and then I went back in to the reserve component, National Guard, and National Guard pretty much threw me out because my urine was UA was dirty. Back in '95, Operation Joint Endeavor, Bosnia. I never made it to Bosnia, is because the CO called me in the unit that I was in, and we just got activated to go, and he said, "No, we're going to try to we're going to kick you out." But I ended up staying for nearly 9 months or so through some administrative reasons. And so I love the camaraderie of veterans. I love that whether you're Army, Air Force, what have you, is that I believe that we can understand each other. And by the way, I want to share, put a plug in for again for American District Center. A lot of the battalion, of course, they've rebranded it now, are going to rebrand it, but it helped me that we had voluntarily some groups that allow for us because we trusted each other. And I think that the veteran, you hear about suicide, so many veterans, per day and all of that. Those numbers are still pretty high, and I think I don't want to and I don't want to try to determine why another veteran would take his or her life. Uh, Full disclosure, I have never taken, attempted, but I thought about it. And last time that before coming down here, the VA said, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I was thinking about running in this moving train from Philadelphia going into DC that went right through where the town that I was living because I was just tired of this cycle, this vicious cycle every so, a couple of years. And I think that particularly with what a lot of military veterans have gone through, I think that it's essential that we have the type of camaraderie and have programs like you all offer that is more specific towards our needs.
Do you find a lot of veterans are struggling?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the VA, we appreciate it. We know it's a lot going on right now. I just read, but I'm in a program, by the way, um, which is called CWT, Compensated Work Therapy. It's been around since '85, and it's for veterans such as myself who wants to get back into the workforce or start a business, whatever the case may be. And so we get stipends, no taxes taken out. You can do it up to 6 months or 9 months. And so I'm at the Dallas VA involved in recreation therapy. And I love it, but I'm meeting so many veterans that have the same story since they got out, or either while they were in, they barely got out with an armed discharge or whatever. And I haven't been able to figure that out, but I want to be able to try to identify, perhaps through some type of focus groups or whatever, why are so many veterans struggling as it relates to substance use disorder? It's a whole lot.
You think people would be surprised at how many people are struggling?
Yeah, I haven't done any research on that, but I'm an information nut. And so I'm glad you asked that, Joy. I appreciate you so much for having me on. You're asking some fantastic questions. Every VA, and I came from the Maryland VA, and then of course with the what they call the North Texas healthcare system, it's sort of sanctioned by the VA to have these focus groups for mental health, and so I very well may end up being the president or the vice president of the North Texas VA healthcare system for the mental health. The VA, by the way, here in North Texas is the largest clinically as it relates to mental health and substance use disorder. It's just a lot of veterans that they help, uh, and I'm eager. I just got on that uh, council or whatever about a couple months ago, and we're going to do some voting in terms of uh, trying to get officers, et cetera. But I do want to say I was involved in it in Maryland too. I was involved in the Mental Health Advisory Council, or as they call it, in Maryland. And so once I get in place in terms of the leadership, then what I find out is that the leadership in the VA really has an ear for what the veterans are going through as relates to mental health. And then again, we've got partners such as you all are, or certainly the community care partner with the VA. And I would hope that that would continue because I'll just say it, I'll be honest with you. It was good to be able to have treatment at VAs here and there, but I think it helped me to have treatment with the greater community because it just wasn't veterans. I was hearing a story of a 23-year-old, who was a ballet dancer or whatever, and she got off track. I think that it's good to be able to have a group of people in recovery that looks like America. And so meeting people from I've met people from Capitol Hill, people from all over that came through the program from various ethnicities, et cetera. And I think that too was good for me to be able to share and listen. I did a lot of listening as to. I want to lastly say that yes, there's a lot of addiction out here. throughout America and all. But there's a lot of miracles in those rooms as well. So again, privilege and for the opportunity that I've had, and now I want to be able to certainly give back, not just in terms of the American Addiction Center arena, but and veterans as well. But uh, we'll see how I'm going to be used. Certainly, this is a platform with having me on. I think that perhaps whomever is watching this or listening, that perhaps maybe that you'll get some calls in, and maybe out of this, that the American Addiction Center can perhaps help to augment some type of focus group that allows for us to be able to come together, particularly for the veteran community.
Well, I just have two last questions for you, Monty. I think one of the questions is, what has life been like this time in recovery? How would you describe how you felt, how you feel? I know you're living on purpose now, but how would you describe how you feel now?
Wow. I'll say it very humbly, Joy. Um, I believe that I'm about to experience the best years of my life. I have nothing to prove to anybody. I know that I'm capable. You know, I used to stutter, believe it or not. I couldn't put two words together. I failed in school. Uh, 13 years. I never had a girlfriend the whole time I was in school. I was very timid, and as a result of getting involved in Toastmasters, I realized that I had a love for public speaking and being able to share uh, in terms of getting the message. And I think that's where I fell in love, particularly with public relations. So at this age of having false starts, at this age of being up and down, I think that it allows for me. I don't know how long I'm going to be around. Obviously, many of my classmates, college and high school, they're not here. You know, people say, "Well, you look good, like you haven't been through anything." Trust me, I've been through something, but I've been blessed to be able to, have fairly good health, and I don't want to. Why should we live on this earth and not add value, as I said earlier? I'm driven by it. I want to be able to share this with you. I believe for your listeners and viewers, if one truly, whether they want to tune into a higher power or read a book or inspiration, what have you, I believe that once someone actually gets a idea in terms of why they're here on earth. As we all know about the purpose driven life book. But I believe that once somebody is very clear, I mean, crystal clear, as to what it is that they feel they're here to do here on earth. Obviously, you're one of the best journalists in your show, and you're doing great and all that. You're right where you probably should be. And I believe that if others would do that, I believe that they will propel like never before. So I'm getting back out the gate at 70 plus years. Okay.
You're showing,
But
well,
I
Monty, I
believe
think
that,
you're showing
yeah,
that it doesn't matter the
yeah,
age. You still have purpose. And I
uh,
think you willing to get help through Greenhouse Treatment Center, giving back now, still realizing you have
mhm,
purpose is huge. And I think the last thing I just wanted to have you say
please.
is, if there's a veteran who's struggling right now
Mhm.
and they hear this, what final message would you want to give to them? What did you need to hear?
I would say definitely get some help. Call the Veteran Crisis Line. I don't know that offhand. There's all types of, if call your local VA. And for some reason, if there's a waiting list for them to get into a program, then look at the community care. The community care program worked for me. I'd never been in treatment through the community care, and so I believe that companies like yours, they have very good therapists and other clinicians that can help, through medications and all. But whatever area that someone is going to reach out, they need to do so is because to rest assured that everything gets worse before it gets better. And I believe that if someone stays in their addiction, jails, institutions, and death is what we have to look forward to.
Mm. But you're proof that life does get better. And as you said, you know that your best years are ahead of you. So, Monty, thank you so much for coming on Addiction Talk. And that's going to do it for episode of Addiction Talk, My Recovery Story.